Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the IELTS Speaking Mastery. This is me, 𝐼𝐄𝐬𝐧𝐠, joining you from 𝐒𝐻𝐿TS Academy. Yes, 𝐒𝐻𝐿TS Academy has come with yet another IELTS Speaking Live. And how are you all doing? And it's a beautiful Monday morning. So I think it's the best time to learn, do you think? Yes, it is. Because we've had a full day of rest, and now we're back to work and doing what we should be doing. So we're all so fresh and energetic and all ready to learn. So okay. Or you may have this Monday blues where you're not in a mood to do anything because you had a whole day of rest. Okay, so different people would be in different moods, but whatever it be, let's try to learn our speaking and let's see what we can do to improve our speaking, our IELTS speaking. So as I always tell you, before we start doing our IELTS speaking, what we have to think about is the 4 assessment criteria. You have to think about it. You have to have an idea about what those 4 assessment criteria are and how you can actually fulfill them. So the 4 assessment criteria are fluency and coherence, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy, and pronunciation. So we have actually explained those 4 assessment criteria in detail, and I'm sure you guys have some idea about it. Fluency is all about just speaking in a flow without much hesitation or unnecessary pauses or repetitions or self-corrections and things like that. It's all about just flow of your speech, and I've given a whole session on how to improve your fluency and how to be more fluent in English. And if you want to know about it, you can visit our page and watch the previous lives as well, where I've discussed all these things in detail. And then about coherence, your answers being in a logical order. And then you have your lexical resource. Lexical resource is about vocabulary, using the right words, appropriate and accurate words. And it's there is this debate over some people saying that you need to have really difficult words, like the fancy words, the words we haven't heard before. But I'm not of the opinion, I'm not of that opinion, because I know students who've got even band 9, but they use accurate and appropriate vocabulary, and that's what's needed. It's not that you have to use a word that the examiner, or even not even the examiner, might have heard, but it's about using the right words for the right thing that you're trying to communicate. The communication is what they're testing. So you have to use the right words accurately and appropriately. Okay, so it is about that. All right, and then you have your grammatical range and accuracy. So what is grammatical range and accuracy? Using and having the right grammar, so not making grammatical errors with subject verb agreement or the tenses. Sometimes the question might require you to use past tense and you may use present tense, or sometimes the question might require you to use present tense and you may use past tense. So those kind of problems can affect your score, so you have to be careful about that. And then your pronunciation, how you pronounce those words. It shouldn't hint up how well it shouldn't affect the understanding. When you're saying a word, the examiner should be able to understand that. So that's how you have to pronounce those words. The pronunciation has to be right, and it does not refer to any accent. It does not mean you need to have some kind of accent, but it's all about pronunciation, and you have to be consistent. If you're using American pronunciation, try to be consistent with it. Okay, so basically it's about the examiner being able to understand what you're saying. Okay, so that is what it is, and I have explained these things in detail in the previous lives, but I just felt like brushing it up for you, just reminding you for if there is any freshers here. I wanted to give an idea about these things for the freshers. Okay, and in IELTS Speaking Mastery, we'll be covering part 1 of the speaking. As you know, IELTS speaking has got 3 parts: part 1, part 2, and part 3. Part 1 would be a few questions that the examiner will ask you that is related to the everyday social context, and you'll have to answer those questions in 2 to 3 sentences. And that is actually an easy part. Then you have your part 2, where you have to answer a cue card. A cue card will be given to you. You will have to answer it. You will have 1 minute to prepare and 2 minutes to speak on it. Okay, again, it's not very complicated. If you know the right steps and the right, if you have the right strategies, you can definitely crack it, and it would, and with a constant practice, it would just be a piece of cake for you. Then you have your part 3 questions, which is similar to your part 1 questions, but which will be based on your part 2 question most of the time. So you also get questions that are not related to your part 2 questions. So you'll again have to answer it with 2 to 3 sentences. In IELTS Speaking Mastery, I'll be dealing with a part 1 of the IELTS Speaking. So there are students who find it hard to just, the problem with part 1 when compared to part 2 is that in part 2, you're given 1 minute to prepare, so you have some time to think about what to say. But part 1 questions have to be answered spontaneously. So they ask the question and you have to answer it right after it. So you don't have time to think. So that's where some students struggle. And then they struggle with other aspects of the language when it comes to answering questions, and they don't have ideas. And it's recommended that you don't use the same, in order to showcase your vocabulary, it's recommended that you don't use the same words in the question when you answer the question. So you need to have synonyms for it. So they're stuck because they don't know the synonyms. So what you can do to improve or learn or use synonyms is that take questions and practice. So you will come across different types of questions and different topics, different subjects. And when you try to speak it, and when you don't have a word for it, you should research. You should ask your friends or your teacher, or you should go online, find some synonyms for it, and use those words and say the answer. And if you keep practicing with those new words that you learn, you will automatically learn those words and you'll be able to use it. So it takes a lot of practice for you to be able to use the words you learn. So learning synonyms is not very easy, but if you learn a word and then if you expect you to use that word when you go for the exam, that's not going to work like that. You have to use them in sentences, you have to use them in answers, you have to answer questions with that word. You have to practice multiple questions that way, and then you should be so familiar with it. Only then you would be able to use it. So it's a lot of effort and time, but let's see how we can make it easy and how we can make the process easier, and how to answer, what are the tricks and what are the strategies, what are the tips for it. Okay, we'll have a look at it. So I've taken different types of topics. Again, this is another tip for you. So you have to practice questions from different topics, like maybe it's about happy birthday, barbecue, films. You get different types of topics, then mirrors, then glasses. These are like simple topics, but then sometimes we wouldn't have anything to say because they're so simple and we're not used to talking about those things every day, and we don't quite discuss such things every day. So we don't, or we may not even have ideas for it. And especially when you have to say it in another language, it becomes even more difficult. So we'll tackle those ideas as well. So in this live, what I'm actually trying to do is, I want to give you different ways of answering these questions, like ideas for those students who are struggling with ideas, because you were asked this question and then you have to answer this question right after it. So for that, you need to have ideas immediately coming to your brain. So how do you do that? How do you think that way? How do you train your brain to think that way? And then how you structure the answer, which all words you can use. So those things will be discussed here. So first, let's have a look at the questions. First group of questions are gonna be on films. Okay, the questions are going to be on films, and I will show you the first question and you can think about it, and if you have an answer you can comment it in the comment box. I'll be so happy to correct if there is any corrections, and I'll be so happy to help you if you have any questions. So the first question we have here is, what films do you like? Okay? Yes, you're able to see the question on the screen now. What films do you like? Answer this question. You can, the easiest way to answer this question is like, I'm telling this for students who are staying in band 4 or a band 5, that level. If you're a band 4 or a band 5 student and you're struggling to even make sentences, if you're someone like that, what you can do is you can take those words from the question. Or if that's the band score that you want, you can use the words that you have in the question and make a sentence, because those students are actually struggling to make sentences. They have, and if you ask them to make a sentence in a different way, it is going to be difficult for them. So for those students, and that's the band score you're aiming, and for 𝐈𝐄𝐫𝐲𝐼 and all of that, if that's your case, you can start by simply saying, I like you can mention the names of some genre. For example, I like comedy and feel-good movies. They entertain me so much. I love them, and I don't like movies that make me sad. I said this answer in the very basic form, like it was very basic. I'm just making simple sentences and putting them together. All right, this would give you around band 4 or 5 or something like that. Okay, this wouldn't give you a band 7 or a band 8. If you need a band 7 or a band 8 or band 6, 7, then 8, 9 I would say. So or 6 or 7, you need to be a bit more better with the thing. All right. You can say something like, if you're planning for band 6, 7 or 7.5, something like that, your answer should at least be like, I like different types of movies, and I love watching all the movies actually, but my favorite would be the feel-good movies and comedy movies, like the really funny movies, because I watch movies to entertain and to feel good. But sometimes I watch movies that make me sad, but I don't like them. My preference would always go for the ones that entertain me, that make me feel good, and that make me happy. Okay? That is one way of answering it. But if you're going and looking for something like a band 8 or 9, you have to be really serious. You have to use different words, you have to showcase vocabulary, your fluency, your pronunciation, everything has to be focused on. So you should say something like, basically, I'm not a huge fan of movies, but I like to watch those movies that make me happy, like the comedy movies or the feel-good movies. I'm not a huge fan of movies that make me sad or put me under a lot of stress. For example, thriller movies or movies that have really sad endings. I always prefer comedy movies and feel-good movies. You know, you would get around 8, 8.5 or even 9 for this answer, because you have good fluency, you're logically putting the answer together, you've used appropriate words, there aren't many grammar mistakes or grammatical errors, your pronunciation was fine, you'll get that. So I'll show you the answer on the screen, while this is also an answer that can help you get a band 8 or 9. So when I show you a sample answer where you can get a band 8 or 9, it's not that you have to by heart this, okay, and reproduce it when this question is asked for your exam. But you have to see how it is framed, and you have to substitute it with the words that you know. And then if you think those are very basic words, go for the better words that you have in these kind of answers. Okay? You can see this. While I'm not a huge fan of movies, I prefer to watch comedies or feel-good films. See, in the question they've used the word films. So when I'm answering the question, I'm using a different word for it. I'm using a synonym, which is movies. All right. Essentially, any movie that spreads positive vibes is fine with me. Occasionally, use these words that I'm using. Occasionally, I enjoy thrillers as well, but I tend to avoid ones that cause too much stress while watching. Okay, this is like a perfect answer. Is it clear? If you have any questions related to this, please feel free to answer it. Comment. I'll definitely answer your questions. Okay. And also, you can try answering this question in your own way, so I can help you. Like, I can tell you why you're making a mistake, or how you can tune your answers, like the fine tunings can be done. I'll do the fine tunings for you, and that would be helpful, I guess. So shall we move on to the next question? Definitely. Did you often watch films when you were a child? So use a different word for often. You can say something like, I've said in the previous live as well, you can say something like always or never. Did you often watch films when you were a child? You can say, I don't remember watching a lot of movies as a little girl because my parents were never into movies, and they did not want us to watch movies either. So because they believed in us going out and involving in a lot of outdoor activities. So I never had the chance to actually watch a lot of movies, but I remember watching a few movies when I went to my uncle's house, and those were like the family kids movies or the animation movies and things like that. But those are not like a very fond memory, because I just did it maybe like once in a year or so, so it's not in my memory so much. I just remember enjoying life outdoors, so it was not something we did as children. Okay, if you look at my answer, the answer that I just said, it's not like the ones that you write. If I were to write the same answer, things would have been different. But when I said it, the natural things that you would have when you say something, that was there. Of course, I hope you all know that the spoken language is different from the written language. The written language looks like a whole different language. If you compare it with the spoken language, so they look so different. And if you bring that difference in your spoken language, you'll still get marks, and that you would sound more natural. So how will you sound natural, more natural? I would say it's about just trying to connect with the question and the person sitting in front of you. So when you look at the examiner as an examiner, you wouldn't be able to answer it in a beautiful way. Like, you would be tense, you would be stressed out, you will be just nervous, and things like that would happen. But try to focus on the question, be involved in that question, and answer that way. For example, if you're asked about just this question, if you're asked about movies, I would say try to say it from your own life, so that you have this emotional connection. When you're saying something that has happened in your life, things will be much easier. So just try to connect it with your life and answer the questions that way. And then then you might ask questions. You'll come across questions that you have no life experience in. So how will you answer those questions? For that, you have to make up stories. You have to try to connect your emotions with it somehow. And this is a technique that has worked for a lot of students, actually, because when they just answer these questions so blank and that feels so bland, like it has no flavor, I would call it, just no life. And I tell them, just try to connect to emotions, just try to think, try to relate it to your life, and then speak. That actually works. Because most of the time when you don't have an idea, when you don't have ideas, or when you don't have thoughts, it's really difficult to showcase your ability or your proficiency in the language. Only if you have ideas, you would be able to actually showcase your proficiency in the language. So that plays a major role. That can actually make your language look or sound, that can help your language sound way better than you can even imagine. Okay, so that's how you should be doing. So tell me if you have tried that and how it turned out and how you're feeling about doing something like that. So this is a major tip you can try. And again, when we share some tips with you, it's not that that might work for everyone. All right, some tips may work for some people and it may not work for some others. But if something doesn't work for you, then just leave it, just forget it and go for another tip and try something else. But you should try different tricks and tips and things like that. You never know which one might work well for you. So now let's see the answer. I don't recall many movies as a child because my parents never took us to a movie theater and we didn't have a TV. They were particular about us not watching a lot of films or cartoons. Instead, they encouraged us to engage in activities like outdoor games and reading books. However, we were able to watch a few family and kids movies when we visited our uncle's house. So here we're using the word kid or kids movies because it's speaking. You won't do that for your writing because it's informal. And now let's move on to the next question. Did you ever go to the cinema alone as a child? Try to answer this question. So if I were to answer this question, I would say I never went to a movie theater when I was a little girl all by myself, because first of all, I was not allowed to go out alone when I was a little girl because my parents were worried for me, and secondly, because I was a coward. I would never go out alone without my parents because I was so scared of the outside world. I was scared if I would get lost and I would be kidnapped and things like that. So I never went out alone, not just to the movie theater, but anyway. So yeah, I never went to the movie theater alone as a child. This is how you answer this question. Let's look at the answer. When I was little, I never went to a movie theater by myself. Firstly, I wasn't allowed to go out alone, not just to a theater, but anywhere. Secondly, I was a coward. Even if I had been allowed to go out alone, I wouldn't have because I was scared of the outside world as a little girl. I always had my family with me whenever I went out, including to the cinema. So cinema has this meaning, theater, movie theater. So when you say I went out, including to the cinema, you're talking about it. So in the question, they've used the word cinema. So you can go for a word like movie theater or just theater, some other words like that. Okay, yes. Shall we move on to the next question? You are ready for it? Yes. Did you often go to the cinema with your friends? Again, for all these questions, you all may have different answers, right? So I can say I went for cinemas with my friends always, or I never went for cinemas with my friends. Like, I sometimes went for cinemas with my friends. You can decide whichever answer you want to say, but always go for the one that would be easier for you to explain. If you were to go for something like, I never went for cinemas with my friends, then you have to explain it. So go for the one that would be easier for you to explain more. So that's why I'm telling you, you can go with the one that's happened in your life. All right. And if it is a negative answer, if you're saying you haven't gone for movies with your friends, just give an explanation to it. Try to answer it in 2 to 3 sentences. Keep speaking until the examiner stops you. But you should have explained the major points in the first 2 sentences, because even if the examiner stops you in between, you've already answered the question. Okay. So, do you often, not did you, okay, I read it as did you, I guess. Do you often go to the cinema with your friends? I don't go for movies with my friends because I don't go for movies at all. So I'm not a huge fan of watching movies, especially watching movies in the theater. So when my friends make plans, they just try to change the plans when they know that I'm not comfortable going to the movies. So I don't go to the movies with my friends very often, or I don't go alone as well, but I don't go with my friends as well. So here is the beautiful answer. Since I'm not a huge fan of movies, I don't go out with friends specifically to watch them. Every time we make plans to do something together and they suggest going to a movie, they quickly abandon the idea. Look at the words. Instead of saying drop, the word we've used here is abandon. Abandon. That means again drop. Okay, abandon the idea upon realizing my lack of enthusiasm. So just realizing that you're not interested in it. Lack of enthusiasm. Instead, we opt for activities like dining out, shopping, or anything other than watching a movie. However, I would love to experience going to the theater with my friends just to see what it's like. I'm just waiting for a movie that fits my taste. Is it clear? Yes. So let's move on to the next question. Do you think going to the cinema is a good way to spend time with friends? What do you actually think? So when you get questions like this, is a question that you can have a discussion with your friends actually in English. So take this question, pick up this question, and just, when you're having a cup of tea or something, just discuss it with them. Just ask them to say their opinion and just share your opinion with them, and make a good discussion there in English, so that you get better ideas and you improve your speaking, and if you're using your leisure time even to learn. So, and you're learning it in a way that doesn't stress you out. So that can actually help, and that can go in a long way. So do you think going to the cinema is a good way to spend time with friends? I personally don't think going to a movie theater to watch movies is the best way to, or is a good way to spend time with friends. Because when you're watching a movie, when you're sitting in a theater watching a movie, you're more focused on the movie, the characters, the story, and things like that. And you have no time to actually talk to your friends or communicate or share jokes or crack jokes or anything. You're actually in the movie, so you're technically not spending time with your friends, but you're spending time with the movie and the characters in it. So I think it's not the best way to spend time with your friends. You can go for some other activities like dining together, or playing a game together, where you'll have opportunities to just talk to each other, to actually spend time with each other. Okay, let's see. I personally don't believe that going to a movie theater with friends is a great way to spend time with them. When you're at the movies, your focus is on the film and its characters rather than on your friends. There is minimal opportunity for conversation or interaction in that setting. Okay? Yes. Let's move on to the next question. Next question is going to be on ice creams. You see, these are like very simple topic. Very simple, like ice cream. And since it's very simple, it's difficult to answer. When some questions become too simple, it's not very easy because we don't talk about these things every day. We eat ice creams. We have ice creams after a beautiful lunch or a dinner. It's a dessert. That's it. That's all we know. We haven't thought much about it. And now you're asked a few questions on it. So it's like you're asked questions about things you haven't thought about. So it's a bit difficult. But let's see. With practice, things will be okay. Do you love ice cream? But see the question, do you love ice cream? And you obviously, you have an answer for it. You can say, I love ice cream. And I even know people who don't love ice cream. Who doesn't love ice creams? We have this feeling like, I've heard people say that they hate ice cream because it's too cold. And I have this question, excuse me, it's ice cream, it ought to be cold and you can't have hot ice cream. So if you're having something hot, that's a whole another thing. And that's about it. And I haven't heard anyone say they don't like ice cream because it's sweet. Good that I haven't heard it, but I've heard people say that they don't like ice creams because it's cold. And they say it's too cold. Of course, it's too cold, but there's nothing to hate in it like that. So if you were someone like that, you can share that. You can say, I don't like ice creams. In fact, I hate ice creams, and that's one of those foods that I can't tolerate at all because it's too cold. I feel like ice creams are too cold that it hurts your teeth, and so I just don't like it. I don't enjoy it much, and I just hate it. You can say that, though it sounds like a very strange answer for all the ice cream lovers, to be honest. So you can give that kind of an. What I was trying to tell you was that if you were someone like that, you can connect with the question and you can say what you're actually feeling about it. So you have points to say. When you connect it with yourself, with your emotions and with your life, you have something to say, which is just beautiful, right? So that goes with the flow, and you have ideas to say and you're using words to present what you have in your mind. So I would say, since I love ice cream, I'll tell you the love ice cream version of this answer. You can say something like, I love ice cream. They've been my favorite dessert since my childhood. I've always enjoyed it, especially after a really hot, spicy meal. And it is awesome when you're having it after a beautiful meal. And I'm sure I can even call it my comfort dessert because every time, anytime, I can have ice cream. So I just love it. Or if there is a word more than that for it, I would use that because that's how much I love ice creams. See, I was just connecting my emotions as well. I was just explaining to you how much I love ice creams and why I love ice creams or how I like it. So just, try to play with your ideas and the thoughts and the words. Okay, we'll see. I adore ice cream. That's the word you can use. That's another word you can use. I adore ice cream. It's my favorite dessert, especially after a spicy hot meal. Its delicious taste isn't the only reason I love it. It also brings back sweet childhood memories. I love it not just for its taste, but also because it brings back all the sweet and lovely memories. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Did you often eat ice cream when you were younger? Did you often eat ice cream when you were younger? How will you answer this question? Okay, if you don't remember, or if you haven't eaten ice cream when you were a little boy or a little girl, you can say that. But that's kind of rare, I guess. So if you're someone like that, I'll tell you an answer that way as well. But it's always about, like I say, you have an experience and you have another answer, which would be easy for you to say. If that's the case, go for the one that would be easy for you to say. But if you have no answers, if you have no way in which you can say this or answer this question, then connect it with your emotions and say. And I would also say always try to do it. But if you have a circumstance where you have another way of saying this answer, better, then go for that. All right. It's all about just bringing out the best in you. All right. So did you often eat ice cream when you were younger? I don't remember eating a lot of ice cream when I was little because my parents were very strict and they did not want me to have any junk or anything that was too sweet or too cold. So they never gave me ice cream. So I don't actually remember eating ice cream as a child at all. It was when I went out and went to college and things like that's when I started to actually eat ice creams. Okay, you can answer it like that. Or you can say, of course, I remember eating ice creams very often because my parents loved ice cream. So every time they got some ice cream to eat, they would share it with me too. So those are like the beautiful childhood memories. I know it's not very good and it's not healthy to eat ice cream very often, but I was given ice cream very often when I was little and it was pretty healthy and it was quite okay. Yes, I ate ice cream very often when I was a child. My parents would frequently buy ice cream because they love it. And they would share it with me too. I remember eating ice cream at night because that's when my dad would get back home after work. And we would eat ice cream together. So this answer has got a lot more information than the answer I shared. Also, I would get ice cream if we went out and saw an ice cream shop. Though it's not very healthy to eat ice cream often, I remember eating quite frequently in my childhood. Those are super sweet memories. Okay? Then, next question, or another way of saying this is using more difficult words. I indulged in the ice cream regularly during my childhood. My parents, who love ice cream, would often treat me to it. I recall enjoying ice cream in the evenings when my dad returned from work, as well as whenever we stumbled upon an ice cream shop while out and about. Out and about is like when you went out. That's a good usage that you can use in your answers. Despite the health implications of frequent ice cream consumption, those memories remain sweet. That's beautiful. Despite the health implications of frequent ice cream consumption, those memories remain super sweet. All right? Yes. Third question under ice creams. Are there shops selling ice cream near the place where you live? Are there shops selling ice cream near the place where you live? There are many ice cream shops near my place, but none of them are really good, or none of them are good. I don't like them because they have really bad ambience and really bad ice cream. The quality of the ice cream is not up to the mark. So I don't really like them. But a few kilometers away from my place, there is a mall, and has got like really cool ice cream shops. Or you can say, I live in a village, so near my place there aren't many ice cream shops like the ones that you would see in the cities. The fancy ice cream shops with beautiful pictures and different flavors of ice cream and things like that. It's really hard to find those kind of ice cream shops here, but we have some small shops that sell ice creams, just like with all other things like the groceries and stuff like that, but you wouldn't have wide varieties there, maybe just one flavor, like the vanilla flavor, or just one brand. You wouldn't have options in those ice cream shops. Okay? In my bustling neighborhood, there are various ice cream shops, but none of them appeal to me because of their subpar ambience. That's a very good term. Learn it. Note it down and try to use it in a sentence and use it in an answer. But none of them appeal to me because of their subpar ambience and mediocre ice cream quality. However, just a 3 to 4 kilometer journey away, there is a mall where I can indulge in delicious ice creams amidst a pleasant atmosphere. Okay? Can you make ice cream yourself? How will you answer this question? You can say, I can't actually make an ice cream all by myself because I've tried it many times but failed it. And I feel like it's not just about the ingredients and the measurements, but it's more about the procedure, the techniques, and the machineries you use to make it. So it's really hard to make ice creams at home, like with the things that you have at home. So I don't know to make it, and I feel like it's quite impossible for me to make it without the machineries and equipments they have for making ice cream. So I don't know how to make ice cream, though I've tried using instant ice cream mix when I was younger. It never turned out really good. I think ice cream making is all about the procedure, technique, and temperature, rather than just the ingredients and the measurements. Hi, Clarina Fernandez. Nice to see you here. Now, we'll look at bike or bicycle. Did you have, hi Claudine, try to answer this question. Did you have a bike when you were young? Simple question. And I always say, some students have this tendency to just answer this question and then stop it there. For example, yeah, I had a bike when I was young. They would stop it there. But you have to give more. Yes, I had a bike when I was young. I had a yellow bicycle that was very cute, and I would ride it all over the place around my house, and I really enjoyed my rides on it. And that was my first bicycle, and that's where I learned to ride, and I was so proud of it. I remember having cute yellow bikes since my second grade. That's when I learned how to ride one. It was my favorite thing in life back then. And I still remember feeling so proud of myself for having learned to ride a bike on my own. Every 3 or 4 years, my parents would buy me a new bike because as I grew up, the bikes would become too small for me, and I loved every one of them. Second one. Did you ride a bike when you were little? Yeah. Like I mentioned before, I learned to ride a bike when I was in second grade. So I enjoyed my childhood riding bicycle. I always rode the bicycle, and since we lived in a small village with very few motorbikes and cars, it was quite safe for children to ride cycle in the area, in the neighborhood. So I rode my bicycle in those places, and that's how I spent my childhood. That's how I enjoyed my childhood. As previously mentioned, I taught myself to ride a bike in a second grade, skill I still take pride in. Since then, I've exclusively used my bike to reach nearby shops. Growing up in a small village with few motorbikes or cars made it safe for me to freely explore the entire area on my bike. I cherish my rides through the village, especially after school. Did you ride a bike to school? Did you ride a bike to school? I never rode a bike to school because my school was far from my home and it was not safe for small children to ride cycle in that busy roads. So I never had the opportunity to ride bikes to school. I never rode a bike to school because it was far from my home and not very safe for young children to travel alone on their bikes. However, as a little girl, I really wanted to ride a bike to school. Do you ride a bike when you go out now? I don't ride a bike when I go out because I use my motorbike or car or public transportation every time I go out or go somewhere, because it's more convenient and you can reach different places really quickly. But if you're riding a bike, it involves a lot of physical exertion and it takes more time. So, but I know it's not very healthy to just always depend on motorbikes and cars. So I really want to get back to my bikes, and I will soon do that. And no, I don't use a bike anymore, which is a bit disheartening to admit. That is a good usage. I don't use bikes anymore, but it's a bit disheartening to admit. However, it's the reality of living in an era dominated by motorbikes and cars. I find myself relying on my motorbike for its convenience and getting me to various places quickly without requiring much physical effort. While I acknowledge this isn't the best approach, I aspire to acquire or rent a bike soon and resume riding. No, I don't use a bike at all now. It makes me really sad to admit that, but it's the reality. In this era of motorbikes and cars, I've been carried away by them too. I use my motorbike when I go out because it helps me reach different places quickly and I don't have to exert any physical effort. Okay? I know it's not ideal. And earlier we said, while I acknowledge it isn't the best approach. Or you can say, that's not a good thing to do. Or I know it's not ideal. I would like to get a bike or rent one and start riding it soon. Okay, these are different ways of answering the same question. So a few more questions. So now I'm not giving you any sample answer. You can try them all by yourself. You can try them on your own. Can you concentrate for a long time? I basically find it hard to concentrate for a long time, though I can concentrate for like the first 10-20 minutes, and after that I can concentrate, but not in a way I concentrated during the first 20 minutes. So I'm like, I can concentrate up to 40 minutes or so, but not more than that. Okay? That's how you can answer that question. Could you concentrate for a long time when you were younger? Yes, I think I could concentrate way better when I was in school and when I was young, because maybe because your brain is developing and it's very sharp when you're young, and I could concentrate. Like I could sit in 2 hours classes and all. I could manage to learn and understand things, and I had the patience to do that, and I would concentrate. So I think, yeah, I could do things better, concentrate better when I was younger. Is it easy for you to concentrate in a noisy place? Not at all. It's not at all easy for me to concentrate in a noisy place. I get distracted very easily, and I wouldn't be able to concentrate either on the noise, neither on the noise nor on what I should be concentrating on. I would just mess it up. So I find it really hard to be in a noisy place and concentrate. That's how we can answer those questions. How do you stay focused? I try to meditate, and I try to convince or tell my mind that it's important to stay concentrated, to stay focused, and to be in the moment. So it's all about just convincing your mind and making it understand that it's important that you focus on the moment. So I just do that, or sometimes I even meditate or take some time off for a break, things like that. Okay. I hope these questions helped you have an idea about how to frame answers for different questions, different part 1 questions, and this would help you get better scores in your IELTS speaking test. All right, so if you have any questions, you can comment. Please feel free to comment. I'll be answering those questions. If not, we'll call it a day, and we'll meet again on next Monday at 10 a.m. on Neethu's page. This is me, 𝐻𝐬𝐿𝐻𝐿 signing off from Neethu's Academy.